I specifically remember this one time. I probably was 5 or 6, and this one older lady came up to me, shook me, she woke me up, and she said, "You shouldn't be falling asleep in church. You know what's going to happen? One day, God is going to come back and he's going to leave you behind because you were asleep." And that scared the crap out of me. That was something that really affected me as a little kid. Again, the learning to fear God. So I became fearful of God. And then it was always like, don't do bad things. God is watching you. So I feel like through religion, I learned that God was villainized. God was something that I was supposed to be afraid of, fearful of. I ask you guys for feedback. I ask you guys for commentary. And I responded to that with, "Thank you for sharing your opinion and your beliefs. I send you so much love, peace, and light." And in return, that response was, "I don't want your love, peace, and light, or your positive vibes." And so how can you be preaching God, Jesus Christ, and yet have so much ugliness inside of you and be so hateful and reject peace, love, and positivity? And that is where I don't see eye to eye with religion. I had gotten married really young, and I remember my husband and I going through things, and my mom asking one of the leaders of the church to see if he could counsel myself and my husband. At this time, I'm 18, he's 19, maybe 19, 20. And he says, "Sister, we can't, they're living in sin." And my mom says, "What do you mean?" "They're married." "Oh, I didn't know that." Again, judgment. So my beliefs is that religion is judgment. Welcome back to Healing Momma Podcast. I am Belle, aka Healing Momma, and today's episode is going to be different for sure. So we'll get into it. This episode is titled God. Recently, I have been struggling going back and forth with myself on why it is that I do hold back. As much as I tell you guys I don't want to hold back in doing this podcast, I do find myself holding back if I'm being fully transparent with you guys. I hold back on a lot of my beliefs, how I feel, what I think, because I don't want to offend, because I know everyone has different beliefs, ideals, and I have been battling with that recently and really having deep conversations with my higher power about it. And I feel almost fraudulent in the sense that I told myself from the beginning that I wasn't going to hold back, that I wasn't going to be afraid of people not liking the content because I ruffled feathers, or not being afraid to be fully transparent with you guys. And as much as I have said that I've done that, there is a certain extent to where I have held back. And the majority of that is with my beliefs. And I feel like I have kind of walked on eggshells for the simple fact that I know that everybody has their own beliefs and everybody's entitled to their own opinions and their own ideas of faith in God and higher power. And I try not to really ruffle that. It's like, what do they say? People don't talk about money, religion, or politics. And so that's kind of one of the ones that I haven't really wanted to ruffle. But how can I hold such a large piece of who I am back from you guys? And so this episode might not be for you. You might need to skip this episode because this one might just not be it. And if that's the case, that's fine. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you have an amazing day. But if you're open-minded and willing to listen in on someone else's opinions, ideas, beliefs, then welcome to Healing Mama. So this year I will be coming out with a book. It's a book about my healing journey, my divine alignment, and how my life all fell into play through everything that I've ever been through. And I talk a lot about my higher power, my beliefs, and my spirituality. and that is a part of me. And so we'll take it back to when I was a child. I had a very religious upbringing. I was in church more often than not. I was always told, fear God, fear God, fear God. And being little, you don't understand what fear God means, right? And I took that very literally for several reasons. Growing up, like I said, was raised in church. I was always at church with my grandma. And there would be times as a 5, 6, 7-year-old little girl, I was tired and I would fall asleep on the pews. And I specifically remember this one time, I probably was 5 or 6, and this one older lady came up to me, she shook me, she woke me up, and she said, "You shouldn't be falling asleep in church. You know what's going to happen? One day, God is going to come back and he's going to leave you behind because you were asleep." And that scared the crap out of me. So as a little girl, I was like, oh my God, like I don't want to be left behind. I hear all these horror stories of what's gonna happen, this, that, and the other. And you're telling me if I fall asleep, just because I fell asleep, I'm gonna be left behind. God's gonna forget me because I was asleep. And that was something that stayed in my mind for a very long time. And as much as that might not be something to you guys, that was something that really affected me as a little kid. And so it was that. It was, again, the learning to fear God. So I became fearful of God. And we'll kind of dive into what that means in a little bit. And then it was always like, don't do bad things. God is watching you. So I feel like through religion, I learned that God was villainized. God was something that I was supposed to be afraid of, fearful of, versus what I believe now is, to me, fear equals reverence. And so what that means is I have a deep respect for God, my higher power. I have no longer villainized God. I see God as my higher power, as, like I said, a higher power greater than myself that I respect, that I love utmost and appreciate, and I no longer see him as the boogeyman. I recently had someone comment on one of the videos telling me that I was lost. That I was lost because my higher power, I stated in the video, is God, and I stand true to that. I don't waver. But that I was lost because I needed to recognize and acknowledge Jesus Christ, God's Son. And what I want to say to that is everybody is entitled to your opinion. I ask you guys for feedback. I ask you guys for commentary. And I responded to that with, thank you for sharing your opinion and your beliefs. I send you so much love, peace, and light. And in return, that response was, I don't want your love, peace, and light, or your positive vibes. And so, how can you be preaching God, Jesus Christ, and yet have so much ugliness inside of you and be so hateful and reject peace, love, and positivity? And that is where I don't see eye to eye with religion, because I do feel, and this is just again my own personal beliefs, that people that are religious have the heart of my higher power. And what that means to me is my higher power is love. My higher power is someone who is understanding that we're human, that we're going to make mistakes, who has grace, who has compassion, and not somebody who has a higher than mentality. Somebody who is looking down on others because they have different beliefs, values, whatever it is. And so when I look at that, right, it really shook me, and I guess kind of showed me like I said, I was just having conversations and God was like, "Hey, like this is where you need to speak up and use your voice. Like you have this platform, use your voice and speak your truth." And my truth is that my higher power, mine, I'm not saying yours, I'm not saying that you need to believe the way I believe, that you need to feel the way I feel. My higher power is love, is kindness, is somebody who's willing to stick a hand out for somebody and help them in times of need. No questions asked, no reasoning to, hey, I need to know why you need this money. Let me give you an example. My daughter and I, just this past weekend, were at Chipotle. She loves Chipotle, that kid. And a lady came up to us. My daughter and I are talking, we're eating, and a lady comes up to us and she says, hey, I'm hungry. Do you have anything you can spare? And I do, right? I did have money to spare. So I take out my little wallet out of my purse and I slide out a 10 and I give it to her. She was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. She gets in line again at Chipotle. And my daughter tells me, why would you help her? Why would you give her $10? I said, why wouldn't I? She said she came into Chipotle. She's not out there asking for money. Like, who comes into a Chipotle asking for money to eat good? And I said, who am I to judge her? Who am I to say, how dare you come in here asking for money? I, in return, see somebody who's telling me, I'm hungry. Who am I to judge you? Who am I to tell you, hey, girl, I'm going to give you this money, but you don't deserve Chipotle? My higher power doesn't see that. My higher power puts it in my heart to give and to not ask any questions, to not judge, because that is not my job. And so back to religion, I feel like religious people judge. I experienced that. And so if this video offends you because I just said that, I am so sorry, but that is my truth. I was again raised in church, and there was so many times that I was judged because, for example, my quinceañera, I had secular music, or what the church calls secular music, right? To me it's just music, and I was judged for that. I had gotten married really young, and I remember my husband and I going through things, and my mom asking one of the leaders of the church to see if he could counsel myself and my husband. At this time, I'm 18, he's 19, maybe 19, 20. And he says, sister, we can't, they're living in sin. And my mom says, what do you mean? They're married. Oh, I didn't know that. Again, judgment. So my beliefs is that religion is judgment. Religion is everything that my higher power God doesn't like, that he frowns upon. My core values and beliefs is spirituality, my connection with God, my ability to be anywhere in the world and to be able to connect with God. I don't need to step into a building to have that relationship with my higher power. I don't need somebody to speak to me about my higher power and what he expects of me, because I have that relationship with my higher power and I'm able to feel that. And God can tell me directly, like he did with this episode, hey, you need to use your voice and you need to speak up. And you know how I know that's my higher power? Because it's pushed on me, it's pushed on me, it's pushed on me. And I'm afraid to do this video, guys, but I'm doing it regardless because I'm called to do it. But am I scared? Am I like, oh crap, people are going to get pissed? Hell yeah. But you know what? If I'm being called to do something and to speak on something, that's what I'm going to do. So if God puts it in my heart to share my truth, and my truth is, I don't go by religion, I don't go by your views, your beliefs. I go by my personal connection with God. And I hear his voice clearly. That's all that matters. That's all that matters to me. And so I want you to know, I don't care what beliefs you have. If you are religious, that's fine. Whatever works for you. But as long as at the end of the day, whatever you're in, you feel connected to, and you feel that you have that relationship with your higher power and you can hear their voice, that's all that matters. And I ask you to be kind, to be loving, to give back if you can. Don't sit there and judge people. It's not our job to wonder why the person on the corner of the street is asking for money or if he or she is going to use it for drugs or beer. Who am I? Is it me giving of my money? Yeah, but if I'm giving it, that's because I feel like that's the right thing to do without judgment. There's been so many times that I've been judged and people don't know what I'm going through. So be kind. And if all you learn today in this episode is one thing, I ask that it's that you be kind with no judgment. And let's say that it doesn't even have to be monetarily. If you see somebody struggling and you don't have the opportunity to give, send them love, send them peace, wish good things for them. I promise you, what you put out into the world, what you put out into the universe, your energy, it all comes back. So, what are you putting out? Are you putting out love, light, peace? Or are you putting out judgment, hate, confusion, chaos? Think about it. Really sit with that question today. But this is my truth, guys. This is me, real, raw. And I'm not going to be afraid of speaking my truth or upsetting people any longer. God gave me a voice and a platform, and I'm going to use it, even when it scares the crap out of me. And so I know this episode was different, and I promise we'll get back to regular programming next week. But this is something that was really pressed on my heart to do and to talk about. And so that's what I'm going to do. But again, put love, peace, light out into the world, and it'll come back to you tenfold, I promise. I hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you for joining in on this episode. Thank you for listening if you're still here. And I send you guys so much love, peace, joy, light, positivity. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, follow. I am on YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Riverside platform, and Instagram and TikTok. You can follow me across all platforms at Healing Momma Podcast, with the exception of TikTok, where you can find me at Healing Momma Pod. Until next time, guys, have a great one. Bye.